even watch back, giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back, giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back, giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back, giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro,
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Leur 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Monday, September 30th, and we are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. When the Montreal Canadiens acquired Patrik Laine, there was such a buzz. Everyone was happy. They were hoping and crossing their fingers that he was going to be the Patrik Laine of the past, the guy who had scored over 30, the guy who had scored over 40, the guy who was a lethal goal scorer, an incredible one-timer, the guy who can finally jumpstart the power play, the guy who would be there for the Montreal Canadiens second line. And on Saturday, disaster. The images don't lie. Paré lines him up. Paré stuck in cement. He's caught flat-footed. Patrik Laine, he's trying to enter the offensive zone on a power play. Paré doesn't want him to get by him. Sticks out his knee no matter what anyone says, just because he doesn't want Laine to get by him, and it's a knee-on-knee contact. Laine leaves the ice. First, he's on the ice, grimacing in pain. You can tell it hurts. He makes his way to the locker room with the help of the trainers, with the help of everyone. He rips off his helmet. He throws it to the ground. He takes his glove and throws it to the ground. You can tell it's a player who's experienced that kind of pain before, knows exactly what it feels like, and knows exactly what it is. You can tell that Laine feared the worst. The Montreal Canadiens have still given no official update. But earlier today, I tweeted this. On me dit que les blessures aux genoux de Laine et Reinbacher sont sérieuses. Les deux seront absents pendant une très longue période. On attend la confirmation des Canadiens. Both knee injuries to Laine and Reinbacher are very serious. Both out very long term. And then I saw, I've been inundated with messages saying, what is very long term, Tony? Is very long term 3 months? Because if it's only 3 months, we can live with that. No, very long term would be more like 5 to 6 months. And that's the prognosis for them. I can tell you that I've been told that Reinbacher's is one notch less serious than Laine's. You're looking at 4 to 5 months in his case. In Laine's case, you're looking at 5 to 6 months. It should be noted that they had x-rays taken yesterday. And usually what happens is when the diagnosis is not good, the team always wants to have a second opinion and in some cases a third opinion. What also happens is when there's swelling, you don't always get the exact diagnosis, so you wait for the swelling to go down. But after doing more tests, the worst has been confirmed. I'm not sure if the Canadiens are going to do more tests tomorrow and maybe confirm whatever news they have in a couple of days, or if they'll come out and tell you tomorrow. But I've been told that they're very long-term, meaning more than 4 to 5 months. And if you do the math for Laine, I've also been told that his season is most likely over. Once again, we'll wait for the Montreal Canadiens to give the official confirmation, but that's what I was hearing. And if it's 5 to 6 months, well, October, November, December, January, February, March, if it's 6, all of March, and then you're back in April. There's a couple of weeks left. Here's a player who has had that kind of knee injury already. You want to take your time with these things. You don't want to rush them back because those are significant injuries, and you don't want to have more and more and more. And once again, very, very long-term injuries, a little bit more serious for Laine than serious for Reinbacher. Injuries that will see them miss most of the year and can compromise their season, especially Laine. I think tonight's show deserves to have two panelists and two hockey analysts, two buddies, it turns out to be. So I bring in from Global TV Montreal, Brian Wilde, and from the Recruits Draftcast podcast of 6 Sports News and the podcast, Grant McCagg. Gentlemen, let's be honest. Everyone had a very bad feeling about it, and I don't think anyone's surprised to hear that they're very long-term injuries that in Laine's case, maybe even both cases, can compromise their entire season. Your thoughts, Brian?
I think maybe you put one more triangle in there and bring on a therapist because it's going to be really hard to not be very depressed with everything that you just said, Tony. I do have one question for you. I thought it was an excellent and thorough explanation of everything. But at one point you said the worst has been feared. Yet the timelines don't add up to the worst because the worst is a longer timeline. Have you learned that the ACL has been implicated in both of these gentlemen, one of these gentlemen, or not at all? Do you have that depth of detail?
The information I have that it's a more serious knee injury for Laine. And for me to tell you if it's what exactly it is or if it's exactly the kind of injury that Doc had last year, which
that's what I'm getting at.
And MCL, I'm not that sure. I haven't been able to confirm that. What I have heard is that once again, they're very long-term injuries, and it's going to compromise most of Reinbacher's season, if not all of it. And it's highly likely that Laine's season is over.
If it's 5 to 6 months and it's ACL, like it's almost.
I would think that that's what it is for Patrik Laine.
Yeah.
But once again, I cannot tell you that at 100%. So I don't want to go there, but you would think that, once it's 6 months, because MCL would probably be, and I'm not an orthopedist, by the way, so, and I'll probably bring one on my radio show tomorrow or whatever, but
it'd be smart, yeah.
I would think that maybe MCL would be a couple of months less than that, right? But I've been told that Reinbacher's is a notch less serious, but very long-term.
It wouldn't surprise me if Laine's ACL and MCL, and then Reinbacher, if it's 5 months or 4 months, whatever, just ACL. I had.
What it makes me think is that they have a focus now, right? Like if let's say you just did the timeline there, and they tell the team, and they come in the locker room and they say, Nick and Cole and everybody, here's what we got in front of us. If you can stay in the mix until March, we got a chance to get this player back, and we can really elevate from there. I mean, because you got to sell them something. You can't just say, oh, we lost this guy we thought was going to change everything for us, and now the second line is screwed, and we don't know who to put there. And I mean, you got to sell the players something. And if they sell that timeline that stay in the mix, he could be back in March. Because you know what I mean? Because everybody has to sell somebody something right now, right? We got to sell the Habs fans something, or they'll be depressed too. And the locker room has to be sold something.
Yeah, Kirby Dach was injured on a Saturday night last year, of course, game 2 of the regular season. And Eric Engels, I believe, reported on Twitter the following day at close to 5 p.m. that it was ACL, MCL, and his season was done. The Canadiens confirmed that it was on the Tuesday. All right. So they took their time, and you'd have to think that, they went through several tests. By the way, when they don't tell you right away that they're fine, and obviously, once again, the images don't lie. You saw Patrik Laine today at practice, not wearing a shoe, not wearing a boot, on crutches, a knee brace on. Usually when they take their time, it's because the news is bad. And then so they want to go for a second opinion, sometimes a third opinion, sometimes once again, wait for the swelling to come down. Guys, I want to talk about, so the impact of these two guys not being in the lineup for almost the entire season, especially Laine, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But I want to go back, and I can't believe that I've been hearing a lot, and it happened on RDS on Saturday night, and it happened tonight on TVA Sports with some members of the media a little bit upset that Arber Xhekaj took matters into his own hands. And I think they're picking on the wrong horse here, because Jackye's an emotional guy. He's there to stand up for his teammates. Yes, he put them in a little bit of a pickle by getting ejected. And once they had already lost the defenseman, they go down to 4. I don't think anyone really cares, considering it's a preseason game. But I say this to them. If Jackeye, and I'm convinced of this, if Jackeye doesn't drop the gloves, I think he would have been obliterated by those same members of the media for not dropping the gloves with Pare. Do I think he went about it the smartest way? I think the smartest way probably would have been to tell Pare, we have to go. And if Pare says no, well, I'm going to start targeting some of your team's better players or some of your team's players, even though they didn't have too many good ones that were playing, until we actually go. But I think anyone blaming Jackeye, Brian, I'll start with Grant. We'll start with you. I think it's ludicrous, Grant.
I think Jackeye and Slav, even with the scrap later, we're feeling the emotions we all were. We're all angry. We're all frustrated. It just like it's human emotion to react to there not being a penalty. It's the referees that you should be upset with, not with Jackeye. Jackeye did what human emotion. He reacted as I would have, as any Craig Berube would have done the exact same thing. Right?
Pare was given every opportunity to not turtle there. He was given every opportunity to answer to the challenge that was in front of him after the action that he made. I'm going to take you back to Paul Byron, who apologized profusely for what he did, and to Uyghur. And there was huge reaction to that. And so much time passed. Yeah. And the height difference and weight difference between the two gentlemen was like 6 inches. And Byron still stood up. Like, he stood up. This guy Saturday night was a coward. There's no way about it. And that's what RDS should be focusing on, is that you had a Montreal Canadian player sticking up for his mates, which is the code of sports. Like, have they not played any sports? Has anybody who's played sports said, hey, buddy, this is a preseason game. Back off. We got to take these 2 points tonight. And you're leaving my mate here have to have Condada play defense. And that's just not going to work for me, man. Have you ever heard anything like that? It's ridiculous.
But you know what, Brian and Grant, if you listen to Marty St. Louis on Saturday night after the game, without saying it, like, it didn't sound like he was crazy about Jackeye going to the box for as long as he did. And maybe that's not a slight at Jackeye. Maybe he was referencing the referees. But if he was asked if he spoke to Jackeye and what he said, and he said, well, no, I'm going to take a couple of days before I do. And then he said, but I'm not going to tell you what's going to come out of it either. But I think that there's something that has happened since Thursday night that has bothered me. On Thursday night, the Canadiens were in Toronto, and Max Domi cross-checked Lane Hutson in the face twice. And a lot of really good teams that do stick together, teams that make playoffs, teams that go far in the playoffs, they have this pack mentality that if you touch one of our players, everyone's going to jump in and we're all going to answer the bell type of thing. We're all going to try and defend each other, and we're all going to fight for that. And I didn't see that on Thursday night in Toronto. And later, Domi tried to push Strubl's face into the ice, pardon me, la glace en français. Now I'm getting mixed up because I'm doing both languages. Tried to push his face into the ice. And once again, nobody did anything. I want to see that pack mentality. Marty St. Louis referenced it on Saturday night that's what he wants to see, because Jackeye's not always going to be on the ice. Jackeye might be hurt. Pezzetta probably won't always be in the lineup. Pezzetta might be hurt. It might take a couple of shifts for either of them to come out. You address problems right away. Now, I don't know this. No one knows this for a fact, what I'm going to say next. No one. But I think it begs the question deserves to be asked. Who knows if what happened on Saturday would have happened if, when Hudson got cross-checked in the face on Thursday, that the Canadiens would have had that pack mentality and everyone would have jumped on top of Domi. Who knows if Toronto would have been going for the Canadiens players and, I think, trying to injure them on Saturday night, because they tried to injure Hudson again.
I don't necessarily think that they were trying to injure Laine. Like, it's a fast game, and I don't know. This is I played a lot of hockey, and it would never occur to me to hit my knee on somebody else's knee, because I can blow out my own knee. And I really don't think that people purposely try to go knee on knee, because you can blow out your own knee doing it. It happens so fast, and you go to move, like the guy goes around you and you move your leg, and it happens to go knee on knee. I don't ever think that it's something that's just completely intentional, even though it was reckless, even though I blame Perret for it, even though I think Perret should have gotten a game and thrown out and maybe even some suspension. I don't think that they were targeting the Canadiens. I really don't believe that.
I would like to speak to the other part of that, the pack mentality, because I agree with you, Grant, too. I don't think that player is talented enough to actually attempt something like that without hurting his own self. We know where his career is like, at least stay there. But the pack mentality, I certainly think that's something that's very important. Like, everybody thinks that I'm this soft left winger, and I don't mean, playing on the left side because I shoot left. And I'm not when it comes to that. If fighting is going to be in the game, you better have a damn good one. And if fighting is going to be in the game, you better be a tough team, or you're going to get, trounced. So when you talk about that pack mentality, I think they showed it. And they showed it when Slafkovsky, who obviously has no idea how to fight, and the next thing he should do is find his buddy, Arber, to take him into, a part of an arena and maybe NDG or something like that no one is there, and they can get on the ice together, and Arber can teach him a little bit how to defend himself. That's never a bad idea, because he's going to get challenged a lot with his height and his weight and his status that's going to be coming soon. And then you look at Anderson fought too, who's not a regular. So they were pack mentality. They were pissed and they acted like it, and they were setting up the regular season by not taking that lightly.
I think it's important for the Canadiens' best players to show that they can defend themselves this way. If the other guys are not on the ice, they can fight for themselves. Mind you, I'm thank God that he fought Rafai and he didn't fight somebody a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger, because you can tell that Slafkovsky's strong like a horse, but you can also tell that he doesn't know how to fight. I mean, he went to grab his hair at one point, left him open, and a right hook basically put him to the ice. And thank God he wasn't taking on Jack the Giant Killer. It also would have been ugly. The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Gentlemen, earlier today on the Sick Podcast, the eye test, Jeff Gordon was with Pierre Maguire and Jimmy Murphy. And before I play the clip, when they asked him, who do you think, if Laine's out long-term, will probably fill the void on that line, listen to the first name he brought up.
Have injuries, people have an opportunity to step up. Is there anybody that's got a glowing first opportunity to step up and potentially replace Patrik Laine, replace David Reinbacher?
Well, I mean, Oliver Kapanen right away is a guy that's come in here and played really well and opened our eyes. And we have a situation with him where we have him for camp, and then if he doesn't make our team, he's got to go back to Sweden. So, we'll probably keep him as long as we can to make that decision. Try to get him in some of these games that we're finishing off with here in the next week. But he's still with us. We're down to basically 5 lines right now. So he's one guy. I think Josh Waugh is a guy that could find himself in a bigger role too. But we've had some other guys play well. Armia has played really well. Galley's come back and played pretty well in training camp. So we have some guys. I think one thing we do have is a little bit of depth now, and hopefully we can get us through this period.
Guys, very interesting that the first name he brought up was the name of Oliver Kapanen, and very interesting that he did not bring up the name of Josh Anderson. And Marty St. Louis earlier today at practice actually did bring up Josh Anderson's name, much to the delight of Grant McCagg that he brought up Oliver Kapanen's name, because I have to tell you, if my memory serves me well, it's probably Grant who started talking about Kapanen before anyone else started talking about Kapanen, saying, this guy's an NHLer. And he's showing us.
That's never happened before, eh, Grant?
And he's showing us that he's an NHLer. You see, unlike Tim Thomas, who never pumped Roberto Luongo's tires, Grant, you don't have to worry about that with me. I'll pump your tires any day. Go ahead, Grant. I guess you're not surprised, Grant, to hear that Kapanen is one of the first names to come out of Gorton's mouth.
Well, I wrote an article yesterday saying Kapanen should be the guy that that gets the audition on the second line, in part because he's a decent face-off man. And I went back and I had a look at Doc and Newhook's career face-off percentage so far. It's 35% for Doc and 41% for Newhook. So I know Laine wasn't going to take draws. So, you have to adapt, right? Kapanen's shown that he needs to start the year. He can always go back to Sweden if he struggles a bit and he's not. Josh Waugh can go down to the minors if he's the odd man out. So far, Waugh's been outplayed by Kapanen, I think it's fair to say. But he brings the element that he can win faceoffs too. So you get the three of them taking situational faceoffs, whoever they're strongest. Between the three of them, hopefully they can get somewhere between 45 and 50% of the draws, because it's an important part. If you're below 40% winning draws, you're not going to have the puck during your shift very much. You need to be above 40% for sure, and ideally somewhere between 45 and 55. So you bring in Kapanen, you give him that spot. I think, as I said in the article, what you've got with Armia, Gallagher, Anderson. These guys, they've reached their peak. Yeah. They're not going to, they're not legitimate second line players, I think it's fair to say now. But Kapanen's got that upside. So give him a trial run. He can help with the face-offs with the other two guys so that it's not as big a deal. All three of them can take draws. I guess probably Doc will be the de facto centerman because, he's great in front of the net and he is a great centerman other than his face-offs. But put those three together, try it out, and I think it could be a decent second line. I really do. So, with one person's misery comes another person's opportunity, and this is an opportunity for Kapanen to step in, give him a shot. Next game I think will be important for him. I think in his second game he wasn't nearly as good as his first, but wow, he was so good in that first game. I always, from a scouting eye, I always put a lot of importance in seeing a player's best. I think it's important, and we saw. I
totally agree with that school of thought, by the way, because everyone's going to have bad games, but when players have great games, if they're really great and they show you unbelievable skills and tools and hockey sense, you don't do that by fluke. So I always love judging off of great games, more so than judging off of bad games. The Sick Podcast brought to you in part by Bittt Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager. It's a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for the cool fall days with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores around the province of Quebec. It's ultra light and ultra refreshing. Brian, and it's common for a player who breaks into the National Hockey League in his first season, who's a centerman, to play wing, and like Grant said, to fill in every now and then, take a couple of key face-offs. And it's not because you're not lined up at center that you can't be doing stuff that a centerman does every now and then. So I like this. I have to tell you, I think when all is said and done, and I hope that it's not the case, because I hope that a guy like Kapanen or Roy would be there from the start of the season to the end. My gut tells me it's a chair that not really anybody on the team with the team right now is really ready to occupy or capable of occupying for 82 games. I think we're going to see a rotation, and I think we're going to see almost everyone play on that line. I think we'll see Armia at one point. I think we'll see Joshua at one point, and I think we'll see Kapanen at one point, and the list goes on and on. Brian?
Well, I think what I would say is, if I kind of put myself right in the a seat in the cherrywood table that the organization is sitting around right now, they're saying to themselves, we were hoping for 65, 70 goals out of that line. 100 goals from the first line, 70 from the second line, 35, 40 out from the third and fourth line, so you got a winning hockey team. So they're saying to themselves, well, how are we ever going to get near 60, 70? And as Grant said, they know what they already have from the other guys, and it's not going to get them there. If they're going to be in the mix, which is their dream for this year, then they need to get near that 70 total. So how do they get there? They have to get it with an upside surprise. And the upside surprise is Kapanen. It's as simple as that. There's no upside surprise that's 25 goals. That's not him from what he's shown. Now, I'm not saying he can reach that. I'm saying organizationally, that's what they need. That's what they know has to happen for them to reach their goals, because they penciled in for Laine. Even Vegas had a line at 26.5 on him. So they got to go find those goals. Couple that with the fact that he's a very complete hockey player, very complete, so they can have a plus-minus differential that's pretty good when they go second line versus second line. And I think that's where they're going to land. And when you hear Gorton says that as his first name too, I feel that they've already had that discussion around the cherrywood table. And that's where they'll land. But he has to keep proving himself, right? Because when this preseason ends, eventually they have to make a decision, because he can't be the 13th forward. He has to be the 6th forward. He has to get a lot of minutes. He's at a point in his career, he can't just sit, in the press box half of the games and playing in the other half.
Let's be honest.
He's got to go back to Sweden.
Let's be honest. Michael Pezzetta should be the 13th on this team, with all due respect for him.
Absolutely, because there's no upside. There's nothing to lose.
Well, look, I think there's upside, because I think he's improved as a player. I just think that his ceiling would probably be lower than the rest. I think he's improved as a player. Take a look at, I don't know, Paul Byron told me this the other day. I had a chance. I saw him at the Barry Lorenzetti Foundation at the Maison Principale on Ducouvent and Saint-Antoine. We were there, and Yellow and I were there, of course, for a fundraiser on Thursday night as he was raising proceeds for mental health. Barry Lorenzetti Foundation was. And Paul Byron said to me, he said, if you would have seen Michael Pezzetta several years ago playing for Joel Bouchard in the American Hockey League, there's no way you would have said that he's going to make the National Hockey League one day. And he's improved. And if you see Michael Pezzetta's shot now, once again, Brian, I still maintain that he should be the 13, that his ceiling is a lot lower than the rest. There's no doubt about that. Marinaro, a shout out to Playground. If you're looking for the ultimate entertainment experience, Playground has it all: gaming, poker, fine dining, live music, DJs, all with unmatched customer service. Why go anywhere else? Just minutes from downtown Montreal across the Mercier Bridge. Playground, your top destination for fun. Grant, so I would imagine they'll start this way, but then if it doesn't work out, Laine's on LTIR. If it doesn't work out with any of the players, do you see Kent Hughes making a move and not waiting very long to make it? Because once again, the goal is to be in the mix. Yeah. And if it's not working out and you wait too long, well, then you're not going to be in the mix. So they're going to give guys an opportunity here. But if it doesn't work out, do you think Kent Hughes pulls the trigger?
In the mix is the optimum term this year, right? Everything's in the mix.
They said it. We're repeating it.
It depends how they do. I think, if they start the year 1-9, they're going to look at getting another top 5 pick and go out, load up one more year, and then next year's the big year, right? But if they're in the mix. There, I just said it. See, it's just habit now. I think that, sure. But it depends. If they're in the mix, it means that somebody's playing well on the second line. But maybe it's working.
This injury, very unfortunately, changes things so dramatically. Because let's just say they were in the mix, Brian. Then all of a sudden, players who are at the end of their contract, who you would have thought would have been dealt, I think it was Nick Suzuki who said, I hope this year we can actually be a buyer at the deadline. But if you realize early on that, you don't have anyone for the second line, it's not working out, you're not going to win the majority of your games, then all of a sudden, Grant talked about going for a pick again. All of a sudden, do you start trying to trade guys earlier and you pack it in earlier than you normally would?
Well, I think that they're pretty optimistic guys, and they like what talent they have, and they know that they were 76 points last year, and they actually did get a pretty important player back in Kirby Dach that they didn't have all year. And let's say he's worth 6 points, and Lane Hudson, and hopefully what he can do to the power play, let's make him worth 5 points. I mean, you're if you want to be an optimistic person and you're again sitting around that mahogany table, you can get him to 85 points. So I mean, don't think they start the season going, oh my God, we lost Laine and we're packing it in. They'll firstly look who that replacement is on the second line, what he's able to achieve, and if it's something good, then they say, okay, we targeted 70 goals for that second line this year, but if we're 55-ish, that's still pretty good because last year we were -8. So, it was still in a good position. So I think that overall they'll take it game by game. I know it sounds like a cliche. It's something the player will tell you in the locker room all the time. And I shake my head. I'm going to need more than that. But I think that's how they're going to play it. It's going to be game by game. And if they find themselves 6-4 and 7-3, then all systems go. I think they'll be a team that gets better as the year goes on with all the youth that they have. So
all right. Grant,
let's not put our heads down too much here.
Here's something, Grant, for you. And I'm going to choose my words very carefully here because I know the way Twitter is, and people will say he didn't just compare him to him. If you take a look at Laine's major characteristic, it's his ability to shoot the puck. You would think that he and Cole Caulfield would be at the top of the list for the Montreal Canadiens in terms of being guys with the best shot. Obviously, he's never done it at the National Hockey League level. But is it possible, and we'll take a look at a poor man's player, that Emil Heineman finally is ready to be able to run with the opportunity? Do you at all see that based on what we've seen thus far? Because, I mean, if we go through the candidates, right, we just went through a lot of them. We haven't brought up Heineman yet. We haven't brought up Barry Boulet yet. And maybe there's somebody else that I'm missing. Grant, can you think of somebody else?
Yeah, there is. And he's the whipping boy. Dvorak. Dvorak came back last year and he was quicker. He's looked good in camp again this year. He's the best face-off man on the team. Put him with Newhook and Dach. The reason why I say that is because Kapanen, I think, has shown that he can play at least third line center, and maybe putting him at second line center to start's a little too much. So you have Kapanen as your third line center, and you put Dvorak between Dach and Newhook.
Okay, so you realize what just happened here, right? Mostly everybody who's watching us right now, right? Up until 3 days ago or a couple of days ago, we're expecting Patrik Laine to be on a line with Dach and Newhook, right? You just brought up Dvorak's name, and 7 people just took a fork and stuck it in their eye right now, right? However, because we have to try and always find the good in everything, there's one thing you love the face-off prowess about it. There's one thing that I would love about that. Brian, do you know what I'm thinking?
Absolutely not.
Well, if he's on that line, chances are he's going to pick up a lot more points than if he was on the third line. He's in the final year of his contract. You're going to raise his value before you trade him.
And he's good defensively too. Like I don't like Dvorak isn't going to turn into an 80-point scorer, but I don't think he's what, 27, 28. So he's in his prime. He's battled injury the last 3 years. He has never quite reached what I think well, obviously what Bergevin thought was going to be his potential. I think he can score 20 goals in the NHL. And if he's playing with Doc and Newhook instead of the guys like when he was with Montreal the last few years, he hasn't had it's been a jumble of line mates. He's been coming back from injury. He's struggled with injury. I think he can be a 20-goal scorer with Newhook and Doc and win faceoffs and be good defensively. I think he's the dark horse. I know he's been the whipping boy with the fans, but it wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't work out with Kapanen, if it doesn't work out with Roy, we know about Anderson and Army, all that. He could be part of this carousel, and it wouldn't surprise me if he ended up being the one that stuck.
Brian, back in 2020, 2021, Christian Dvorak scored 17 goals in 56 games for Arizona.
Yes, he did.
I get it. Arizona's not Montreal, and it's probably easier to score there, maybe less pressure or whatever. But maybe that 20 number isn't as ludicrous as it might sound to some. Thoughts?
Well, my first thought with the entire conversation right now is that Martin St. Louis, whenever he talks about prototypical quintessential centerman and the highest upside on the team, he talks about Kirby Dach. And the only thing he doesn't like of him as a centerman is he loses faceoffs. And they're still hoping if he does it enough times, he can learn how to do it correctly, even though at his age, that's maybe not going to be his forte ever. But more practice, he could get a little better, maybe find himself in the 45 to 50 range at least. So I really don't see Kirby Dach not being a center this year. So now you're putting Dvorak on the wing, which I can accept much easier than I can accept him being a center. Now you're down a center, and I think Oliver Kapanen could fit that role.
Yeah, but take the face-offs. I wasn't saying necessarily that Dvorak would play center.
And then they rotate out after the face-off.
Yeah,
sure, very common.
But have Dvorak take the center because you want the puck. You want that line to have the puck more than 35% of the time, right?
Yeah, and I think the essence of the whole conversation is what are they looking goals-wise from that guy who fills line A? If they were hoping the upside of him was 35-40, that's not going to happen. But the line on him was 25, and if he hits 20, they're asking themselves who can hit 20.
Right. The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Accent Insurance Solutions. All insurance isn't created equal, and you know where to find the right solution for you. It's at Accent Insurance. Accent doesn't sell insurance, by the way. They shop it for you to find the right product, right on the money, whatever your insurance needs, home, automobile, or business. You can call them or jot down this number, 514-363-3636. You can call them tomorrow. Visit their website, accentassurance.com. Now, Grant, you talked about Dvorak, and you said you think he can be a 20-goal scorer at some point in the National Hockey League. Once
if
again,
he plays with those guys, yeah,
he's going to have to play on the power play, though. Right?
No,
don't you think?
He plays with Kirby Dach, and Kirby Dach reaches his potential, and Newhook goes up to the 60-point level, which he was on pace for 57 over 82 last year. Mm-hmm. Those two guys should be 60-plus point players. If they are this year, Christian Dvorak's going to score 20 goals playing with those guys.
Brian, how worried are you?
Second unit?
What's that?
Who's the third forward now on the second unit? Power play unit.
Oh, on the power play unit. Yeah. Kapanen.
You love Kapanen. Holy
moly. Hey. he scored in Liga playoffs on the power play. He scored at the World Championships on the power play. His stock's just going like that. So he's great in front of the net.
He's Arturi Lehkonen then.
Oh yeah, he's great in front of the net.
Arturi Lehkonen here had a certain profile, and then he goes to Colorado, and his profile changed completely.
Oh yeah, no, Kapanen is great at deflecting pucks. He's great in front of the net. He's very effective on the power play. I hope he gets power play time if he makes the Canadiens. I think. Well, hey, who did Jeff Gorton? Who's the first guy that came to?
Yeah,
but at the same time, he didn't mention Dvorak.
He's obviously
he mentioned 6 guys, and Dvorak was not one of them.
He saw my article yesterday, and then so he thought Kapanen, and now he'll see this podcast tonight, and next time he talks,
naturally. And if that continues, you're going to leave us in a week, and you're going to be next to Marty on the bench. Excuse me.
I had to pump my own tire there for a sec.
All right. Okay. Speaking of the power play, Brian, how concerned are you that the power play has not scored a single goal in preseason?
Not really. Not really. I mean, I always see the power play is essentially just about talent, and I like the talent, and I don't know why they're, always mired at 29, 30, 31 with that talent. I'm hopeful that eventually they'll choose Lane Hutson to be on the first unit and Matheson on the second, if they're going to go with 4 forwards. I think where they're all standing is a little off right now, but who the hell am I? You know what I mean? I'm not Martin St. Louis. I got no cups, but it just seems to me like Cole Caulfield should be on that side where he sees a lot of the net when he's firing that one-timer, instead of being at a canted angle where he doesn't see much of the net when he's firing his one-timers, a right-handed shot being on the right side instead of left. But I mean, they got reasons for it, and I don't want to pretend ever technically that I'm some genius out there. I think it's not my place, and I love Martin St. Louis so much. I think he's such an intelligent hockey mind that there's a reason for it that's beyond my comprehension. But 29th isn't good enough. But I think if Lane Hutson's on the first unit, and some of the structure gets changed just a smidge, it just should not be that poor. This was a line last year that was on a 106 goal pace in the second half of the season, which puts them top 5 in the National Hockey League, those 3 forwards. So why is the power play 30th? It should not be. They should figure it out. I expect it to be good this year, and one of the reasons that they'll be, Grant, in the mix.
Yeah, speaking of goal scoring guys, if I was a betting man, and I said this before the Laine injury, my money would be on Cole Caulfield to be the leading goal scorer of the Montreal Canadiens. And after, obviously, with the news of the Laine injury being out very long-term, compromising his season, I'm going to go with that. If you want to go with that, Betway is a leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway. Go on betway.com. Scan the QR code to join the action. Must be 18 years old and play responsibly. All right. Okay, guys. Once again, just in ending, what a disaster. I mean, I hate to be this way, but with this news, and of course, it's an opportunity for guys to step up, and they may make the best of it. I have a hard time seeing the Canadiens in the mix with this news.
Well, I'm just as sad about Reinbacher. I mean, this is a pivotal year for him. We haven't even talked about that. It's all
you're right. So let's talk about it now,
because we had all these expectations going into the year for the Canadiens. But from a long-term standpoint, that's the injury that really bothers me. Like, this is such a pivotal year for him. His first full year in North America, and if the news is right that you've reported, and it's 5-6 months. Maybe he's back for the playoffs in Laval.
Could be 4 to 5. I've been told it's a notch below Laine, who's 5 to 6. So it's long term, right? It's a big chunk of the season. And look, he had a difficult
he hurts
year.
Laval too, because Laval, Reinbacher was going to be a huge part of Laval this year, and a huge part of them making the playoffs. So now, how much does it hurt their chances of making the playoffs?
How much does it hurt his development? I mean, if it's almost a season of pro hockey, it probably will hurt his opportunity to actually be on the team next year, right? It's a lost year, basically.
It could delay him a year from being on the team. So it's just that, to me, is disheartening. Just in a 2-minute span at the start of the game, like I said to Shane the other night, I went out for dinner and had my favorite meal, and it tasted bitter. Like, I just couldn't enjoy it. It was just, it's unfathomable that it happened still.
Can I ask a question, Grant, though, from a development point of view, because that's kind of what you concentrate on is how these players develop over that 5-year window that you say after those 5 years, then you start the assessment overall, whether they can make it or not make it. Like, does this not only just for Reinbacher, though? I mean, it's doom and gloom and everything, but I'm kind of looking at, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like he doesn't have a history of this injury. Or his knee giving out, or there's difficulty over and over again. So, like, or does he? Are you shaking
He
your head
did.
because he does?
He injured his knee last year too, and I almost
Same
wonder.
one?
I'm not sure, but I know that he
Okay.
had a knee injury last year, and I hope that
'Cause
it's not something that's
All right. The
that's
question
going to
ends up
bother him
being
forever.
is like, okay, it just took him back a year. But I mean, like the whole organization is trying to like wind up for the year that they take the great leap forward, right? So, like, if this brings him back a year, it doesn't hurt the overall development of him. It's just sort of like makes him 1 year older. Do you know what I'm getting at? Like, will it make him will it make him a weaker player down the line? Or is it okay because the great leap forward wasn't this year anyway? This was the in the mix year. You understand?
Well, yeah, I just, anytime that you miss a full year development, I think we're seeing it with a lot of the players in their draft year with the COVID. Like Shane Wright, has he developed as people expected?
Yeah, but what about that Slavkowski
after
guy?
losing that? No, but there are a lot of players that missed that year with COVID. The junior players at 19, 18 years of age are still. It hurt their development down the road. So I can't answer it. A knee injury can, it depends a lot, but it can hinder. Sure, it can hinder your development if you never quite skate as well as you could. I mean, we've seen it with players in the past. So there's a lot of unknown there. But I also think missing the majority of your first pro season in North America when you're a European, that might hurt his long-term development down the road. So it's unfortunate. It really is. And I hope that he bounces back and that it doesn't affect him, but there's unknown there.
Well, let's see how serious it is, but I'm going to take the other side of the coin, and he can become the same player that he was always going to be. I don't think this is going to hurt his stride or his development. It's just going to push it back the amount of games he misses. That's my guess. That's my hope.
Well, he's young and he's a big boy and he's strong, and they recover pretty quickly. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see. Once again,
Taku Koivu at 19 years of age suffered a really major hip injury, and he was going to be a superstar. Like, I mean, he was the best player.
He led the league when he was injured,
and he was never quite as fast and never quite as good as he was when he was 19. So, you don't know, and that's why I'm very concerned and I'm distraught. But I am like you. I'm usually optimistic about these things, and I hope that he'll bounce back.
But these surgeries are so much more advanced than they have been in the past.
True.
Right? I mean, if we take a look at a silver lining here is that technology has changed. I mean, back in the day, you would suffer some of these injuries and your career was over. Right now, you come back and you probably reinforce the knee so much that it's probably stronger than it ever has been before that. Anyway, one of the things we haven't talked about is just how key and how important it's going to be for the Canadiens, guys. Sensitive topic here. We're going to bring it up, though, to make sure that Laine, like he was today, is around the team, like he's a part of it, because we all know that it's been a very difficult couple of years for him from his father's passing, who was very close to, from addictions that got him into the players' assistance program. And now all of a sudden you're out with an injury. You're out for a very long time. You don't feel part of the team. You have all kinds of time on your hands. You're not being very occupied. And you remember what the Canadiens did with Doc a year ago? They got him in on team meetings. They made him a part of it. They brought him into scouting sessions. They brought him in so that he can listen to what Adam Nicholas and Marty St. Louis and coaches from the player department, advanced scouting, preparation for games. And I would imagine if the Canadiens did that 1 year ago with Doc to keep him occupied, to make him part of it, to make him part of the team, but to also bring him in so he can understand what they're trying to teach and maybe become a smarter player in the process, I'm willing to bet they're going to do the same thing with Laine. And they have to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to take a Martin St. Louis quote from today to advance your theory on that. He was talking about the fact everybody's watching this series called Rebuild right now on Crave, and it's about us building a house again. But is our house a home? And so he was talking about that we want to make sure that we're not just building a house, that we're building a home. And a home is where people take care of each other and people love and support each other. So I think they got the right people here. I can't say enough about Martin St. Louis, his understanding not of just how to play X's and O's on a whiteboard to create a good hockey team, but his understanding the human condition. So I think they got the right guy there. I think organizationally, they got other right guys too in Gorton and Hughes. They're complete human beings. They're men in full. And I think they're going to do the best for this man who is obviously was happy here, happier than he was for sure in Winnipeg, where that was the locker room of the inferno from hell. Apparently, a lot of different players said Columbus, he obviously decided that it was wrong for him. Even when they changed management, they didn't change enough in the room. And he said, even after those changes, he wasn't prepared. Here he comes. He's happy. He shows up today. I think they have the right people. And I don't think it could be an issue. I don't want to talk about mental health in a soft sort of way. It's a very hard thing. And time is your biggest enemy. And he's going to have too much of it for his mind to be occupied with wrong things. But he's going to have excellent support from this organization.
Guys, what do you say that we put Sammy to work? We do a little overtime here, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes, and we probably answer some questions from those who are watching us right now on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Is that good with you guys?
If you don't mind me, just I want to add a little bit about.
Go ahead.
I think very well said, Brian, and I agree 100%. But I also think what's changed for him, and I mean, I'm speculating here though, is the fiance. Like he's in a lot better place than he was in Winnipeg. She started this mental health initiative with him. Everything that I've seen, video I've seen of her and things that she said, I think she's a really good influence for him, and I think that's going to help him through this. I know he used to be really into video games. Now, I don't know if that had anything to do with why he went into that program or not, but he's got his woman now to, like, instead of video games, right? That it's going to take it distract him from that becoming a problem again. I don't know if that was still a problem with him or not, but that just as an example, I think that the Canadiens, as you say, Brian, are going to help him a lot, and as his fiance, I think, and he's in a better place.
Sonny Hendricks says, Tony, how positive are you with your Patrik Laine medical diagnosis? Guys, look, and girls, look. I really had nothing to gain, and Brian, who's been in the business a long time, knows this.
You got a lot to lose, actually.
By having that scoop, I have absolutely everything to lose and nothing to gain, because I think I've already proven that I've had my share of scoops in the past, and I don't need another one. And if the report that I issued is actually false, it puts a little bit of a dent. I think Brian can attest to this. I've been pretty good over the course of my career with medical records and medical reports. I'm not batting 1,000. I've made a mistake or two, but my batting percentage is very, very high. And seeing as I had nothing to gain and absolutely everything to lose, if I wasn't 100% of my source, I wouldn't have put it out there today, what I put out there. Now, you know what? Maybe Reinbacher recovers a little bit quicker and comes back a little bit quicker, but I'm going to repeat once again what I was told. very long-term injuries, one notch more serious for Laine than Reinbacher, who's a little younger and probably can recover a little faster. Maybe they'd want to take their time with Laine a little bit more. And their seasons are very much in peril, especially Laine. And I was told, don't be surprised if they just shut him down.
Who's your source? Dr. Recchi there?
Yeah, you know what? This is pretty funny, by the way. I was asked by several today who my source is, and the fact that I didn't name my source, I'm full of shit.
Well, of course not.
Like I can't believe some of the stuff you get on Twitter every now and then. Folks, obviously you know nothing about the business. You don't divulge your sources. I get phone calls. I lock myself in the bathroom and I whisper, and I don't even make my wife hear because I don't want her to know who I'm talking to and what I'm getting at. All right. But you don't divulge your sources, right? And that's that. Okay.
Sorry for asking.
Shout out to Paul Montreal. I want to talk to you about them. Attention. Dr. Manishkana has a game changer for hair loss. It's called TED. It's an ultrasound technology to boost blood flow to your scalp, getting those hair follicles back in action. It's all natural, no needles, no pain, and a 98% success rate for ideal candidates. Visit www.paulmontreal.com for more. They have 2 locations, one downtown Montreal and one on the West Island. And for a free consultation, call, jot down this number, take it down. You might want to call them tomorrow, 514-989-7328. Okay, let's go to a couple of questions. We want Demidov now in Montreal. Could Demidov be in Montreal faster than everyone thinks? Grant?
No.
There we go. So we can forget about that. Next.
I would go with no there as well. Especially now with the big injury.
Chris Bergeron. If Laine is out, we'll have cap room to take on a bad contract that gains us other pieces like firsts. Brian?
Yeah, I'm not too sure about this. I read something yesterday. I'm not a capologist by any means, you guys. I find that part of one of the trickiest things to understand. I usually wait until somebody smarter than me answers, but I heard that it doesn't really impact their cap space very much and doesn't give them the flexibility that people have automatically assumed there.
Montreal doesn't need any more first-round picks. They've got 2 in the next draft. Their top 3, obviously, with they're one of the top 3 in the, what list was that, Brian, you were talking about today?
McKean's today?
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had them
top 3.
I had them number 1 in under 25.
Ottawa was not number 2.
No.
By the way, sorry.
Good.
I can't
They need to accelerate the rebuild. There's no doubt about it. Shane, more questions? Mark's question for Grant. Don't you think it's important for Doc to get in lots of in-game face-off reps this season? Dvorak taking draws for him on line 2 doesn't serve Doc for the future.
Well, yeah, I mean,
coaches want to win games.
If he keeps winning 35% of his faceoffs, they're not going to keep. They're not going to make him keep doing it. It depends. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's a good point, but he, up until this point, he's 35% for his career, and you can't. They want to win. Yeah, the future of Doc is important, but the team is more important than any one player, and that goes for everybody. So if he's still winning 35% of his faceoffs, they're not going to keep him taking all the faceoffs just so in the hopes that he might get better at it.
Yeah,
because for his future, if he keeps winning 35% of his faceoffs, his future is going to be on the wing.
Well, I also think it matters how much they're in the mix. Like if they're really, really playing well and they're winning hockey games and St. Louis needs to do points, then Dvorak's going to take the draw. Simple as that.
Who knows? Maybe Oliver Kapanen ends up being a second-line centerman on this team.
He's got that upside. I've been saying it for 3 years. It may not be this year, but he's definitely got He's definitely got middle line center potential. That means
Oliver Kapanen, center, and Doc on right wing, and Demidov. You never know. No,
never know.
Don't like it.
Never say never.
Never say never, Brian. Never say never. How about three more questions? Let's go. Three more questions.
Third line center, though.
Andrea Galliano. Hey, guys, can you see the Habs picking up a forward off the waiver wire when other teams start making their roster cuts? I don't. Brian?
No. Grant? They were 12 deep. Some of the best players in the third and fourth line in the whole league.
I think Michael Pezzetta is a consummate fourth liner, not a 13th forward. So if he's your 13th forward, no, they've got plenty of depth.
And look, once again, Jeff Gordon tells Pierre Maguire and Jimmy Murphy that, Oliver Kapanen is a player who could probably fill the void. So, I don't think they're going to end up picking up a player on waivers. I think they're going to try in-house to see what they have. Speaking of which, by the way, and I know we're taking questions, but Jeff Gordon on what's next for the rebuild earlier today with Darren Jimmy.
You have to do now to take the Canadiens rebuild to the next step, Jeff.
I always say this about our team. The thing that excites me the most is obviously the young players come in. We have a few that aren't even here yet that are going to be pretty good too. We have goalies, we have some D, we got some forwards, we got 2 first-round picks that aren't even here. So that's all exciting. But I get excited because I think our best players in general have not reached their ceiling. There's more to go. So that really excites me because you have all these young players coming, and then you have this our core players that haven't really topped out yet. So they're all growing together. So that's it. But it's sort of what we talked about. We're going to have to add the right pieces, right? I think we're in a position now where we have a number of good players. We have a number of good young players coming, but what we add to that mix is going to be key.
And what about Laine Hutson, Jeff? What about Laine?
Let's talk about some positives. How about Laine Hutson? How good is he?
He's really good. He's very exciting. He's created a little bit of buzz in this town, and there's not too many times where a rookie comes in and he touches the puck and 21,000 are like, wow, standing up and yelling for him. So he's played really well. And the other night we're down to 4D after 5 minutes into the game. So Laine, it felt like he played the whole game. Mm-hmm. Might have to give him a little break here, but he's been great. I mean, since first day of rookies, really since those 2 games last year in Detroit, Laine sort of he hasn't really missed a beat. If anything, he continues to get better all the time. So it's pretty exciting. Our players are excited when they see him too.
Grant and Brian, if there's ever any doubt, that sounds like a player who's going to make the team.
Oh, man, that was fantastic. I just love that he noticed all of that. The ice time, the composure, the fact that 21,000 are getting out of their seats when he touches the puck. Even dating back to Detroit last year, the 2 games he said he hasn't missed. This is all that you're hoping to hear. And I love the point, too, that he made before that in terms of, like, everybody's guessing now, they made 76 points last year. It's going to be 76 points this year, too, because Laine got injured, but he's right. The whole core, except Suzuki, probably has not topped out at all. And even Suzuki may have another 5 points in him. Cole is not found his A game. And Slafkovsky's not even close to his A game. Maya's, just arriving. There's just it's hard in this moment to not be depressed about what happened to Laine and Reinbacher, for me, to a lesser degree, because I think he'll recover well. But God, there is just so much to be positive about as well. Let's see what Dak can do for 82. Hudson on the power play. Everybody's getting better. Slafkovsky hasn't even moved the needle to what he can do. So I loved hearing all of that from Gordon.
Yeah.
Now back up to 90 points. No, I'm not, but
yeah.
I'm not 76.
And you didn't even mention Gooley, who I think could take a big step this year.
Yeah, absolutely. There's 7 guys that could take another step.
Yeah. And just core that guys alone, just the improvement of the young core alone gets them another 10 points this year, I think. you know.
Yeah.
And
What
that
is
was
your point
before,
prediction, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
and that was before
85.
Laine was ever in the conversation. So that hasn't changed. And now
Tony,
Kapanen
do you have a
is
point prediction? Sorry, do
Well,
you have a point
I
prediction?
mean, with Laine there, I thought adding a win per month and an overtime loss in half a month of April was realistic. That's 13 points plus 76. You're at 89. 91 made the playoffs last year. I also said, you know what? I think in an ideal situation, if the power play is working, they could probably end up picking 3 points up per month instead of 2 for the most part. And then you're at 96, and then you make the playoffs. I think the Canadiens will be somewhere in the mid 80s, guys. I can see them jumping about 10 points, but unless guys really answer the bell and everyone has a career season and Montembeault stands on his head, or they make a terrific trade, as it is right now, if I'd have to tell you if the Canadiens are going to make the playoffs or not, I don't see it. Now, Maxime Lapierre, about a week ago, said he saw the Canadiens in the playoffs, but that obviously was before the Laine injury. One more question, and then we'll call it a night for tonight, because 2 hours of sports radio, CF Montreal podcast, 15 minutes of television, and this, it's a pretty long day. Jason says, why is St. Louis so infatuated with having Matheson on the first unit of the power play? Grant?
What, he scored 62 points last year or something like that. He's the top scoring defenseman on the team. He's the vet. I don't think he should be. I think it should be Hudson, but I also think that they don't want to just like with Slav, they didn't just stick him on the top power play right away. Give him a little time.
They don't make you run with it right away.
What's that?
They don't make you run with it right away. It's kind of like you have to kind of pay your dues, and they bring along slowly but surely, and they don't want to give you too much. And maybe it's because you want to appease your veterans a little bit too. But I think that things will happen organically. Yes. And at one point, Lane Hudson will be quarterbacking the first wave of the power play. He will not look back. The Canadiens will not look back, and he will be doing so for at least a decade.
Agreed.
Yeah, my answer to that is hierarchy. That's number one, is hierarchy, and it's very important in the room. You got to earn those minutes. You got to earn those spots. That's just the way it works. Hierarchy to these athletes is very important. The one thing they always talk about to me, I always ask them, what's your number one concern? I mean, when you get right down to it individually, not team, the answer is always ice time. Ice time, ice time, ice time. Because without it, so that ice time is won through hierarchy. And I also see the power play, I think, in this without Laine incarnation, maybe I would like to see maybe both of those guys are on the first unit, because now you got your one forward down that you can rely on as top scorers. And so there's no sense putting 4 on the first unit anymore. Just go 3, drop 1 back to the second unit. So that's not a waste of 45 seconds like last year.
Yeah. And I think they have 4 or 5 defensemen that can play on the power play.
Could be a third one for sure.
Yeah. So
when he plays as a fourth one, naturally.
Even Jackeye can play some power play, and if Mayu makes the team, for sure he can play on the power play. So I don't have an issue, and it's one of the possibilities that even though the trend in the NHL has gone away from having 2 defensemen on the power play, like Montreal's in a position where, with Laine's injury and with all of the young defensemen that are capable of playing on the power play, that they might have 3 or 4 on the 2 units.
All right, guys, the next couple of days should be interesting. We'll wait for an official confirmation from the Montreal Canadiens, and we'll go from there. Canadiens versus the Senators tomorrow night. Pierre Maguire will join me tomorrow on the Sick Podcast, obviously at 10 p.m. Eastern. Special thanks to Energy Transportation Group, to Bittt, to Tibi, to Playground, to Accent Insurance Solutions, to Betway, and a shout out to Paul Montreal, and special thanks to Brian Wilde and Grant McCagg. Special thanks to all of you for watching. If you liked it tonight, comment sick, share it with your friends. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's absolutely free. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple. It's our way of feeling the love. And quite frankly, I think we deserve it. Thank you very much. Guys, thanks again. I'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.
And for Shane Gaumont and Master Control, thanks so much, Shane. Injuries again, and the season didn't even start. I've said this before, and I asked you before, and I'll ask you again. Is this a joke? No. It's more like a curse. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaBeat.tb, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.